Okay, so now it's 2:59 p.m. So for everybody here in the room, again, welcome or welcome back if you're from the morning session to our fifth Fireside Chat of the day, why a positive company culture matters, right? So I hope everybody's excited to hear from the experts in this field and to also understand right? So have fun, everybody.
Hi guys.
Hi, hello.
Hi. So I'm Ben. I'm the product designer from Talenox, and I'll be your moderator for today. The session on why a positive company culture matters. So culture is often used to describe the heart and soul of a company. However, is culture really important to ensure a company succeeds? In this fireside chat, we'll find out from our speakers on what exactly is culture and why it matters to them. So today we have representatives from different companies. We have Jesslyn Phoon from Talenox, Andrew Tan from Wantedly, and Joel Leong from Aspire. So before we start, it will be great that we get a brief introduction from you guys and your businesses. So Jesslyn, you're the head of marketing in Talenox. Can you tell me more about your role and about Talenox?
Okay, hi everyone. Yeah, thanks Ben for like the quick introduction already. Yeah, I'm Jesslyn and I'm the head of marketing at Talenox. I have been in Talenox for about 7 years now. And boy, that's a long time. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, Andrew has really seen us through the years as well. And then Joel as well, right? So yeah, actually I oversee like both inbound and outbound marketing in some sense. So if you guys had attended our previous chat, you kind of have heard one of our teammates share about that. Yeah, we've expanded our team by quite a bit in the past couple of years, and well, since today we're talking about culture, shout out, we're still hiring. So if you're hearing this, reach out to us if you're interested to join. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Now we have Andrew from Wantedly. Could you also do the same?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. With pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. First of all, big thanks to Talenox for having us, Wantedly. And congratulations on your wonderful milestone event. Yeah. Really nice to hear Jesslyn's introduction. Wow, you're a mainstay at Talenox, and look forward to also learning more from Joel. As introduced, I'm Andrew, and together with my team, we champion Wantedly's mission here in Singapore. For those who are not familiar, Wantedly was founded around 10 years ago, and we hail from Japan. Our HQ is based in Tokyo. As a social recruitment platform, we disrupted the hiring landscape back in Japan. We have become the de facto hiring platform there. And in 2017, we internationalized. We came to Singapore and later Hong Kong. Common markets with Talenox. We are really glad to be clients, to be partners of Talenox in both Singapore and Hong Kong. In Singapore, our B2B recruitment subscription platform, it helps employers develop the employer brand in order to attract right talents. And I think that's a topic we might cover today. What we aspire to achieve is, instead of a spray and pray approach, we encourage companies and talents to match based on shared purpose and shared values. So this is a key component in talent management, because not only does your company want to attract the right talents, you also want to retain the best talents. Just like how Jesslyn is 7 years old at Talenox, right? And I'm so excited for today's fireside because culture, it plays a huge role in the modern hiring process. And against the backdrop of the pandemic and this new normal, culture has definitely come to the forefront for stakeholders, employers, employees, even customers.
Thank you. I see. So finally, we have Joel. Could you also do the same?
Sure. Thanks, Ben, and yeah, waves to Jesslyn and Andrew. Cool. So Joel here. I'm one of the co-founders and country manager at Aspire. So
I think in terms of the companies being represented here today, we're probably the baby. We're only 3 years old. Basically what Aspire does is that we're an all-in-one business finance platform that basically aims to be your solution for growing businesses at any stage. What that means is that our flagship product is actually a business account, which is pretty much like a banking account. But we've gone beyond banking to also tap into all the other areas of finance, right? So the average business actually uses 7 different financial services, whether they realize it or not. You have someone like potentially Talenox to manage your HR, your payroll, right? You have someone like Xero to manage your accounting. You maybe use FX provider for cheaper rates, etc. So Aspire's vision is really to bring all these services that are very disparate. They don't talk to each other. It's confusing to have to put your teams onboard them through different platforms, and we basically want to consolidate it in an all-in-one experience. And we've kind of grown with our customers in that regard, right? So we started out as a startup ourselves, and we saw our team grow, from a 2-person startup to now over 200. So we experienced sort of firsthand the pains associated with not just growing in terms of managing your finances, but maybe in regard to today's event also, how do you scale culture, how do you scale talent? And that's something that we're paying a lot of attention to today, and very excited to sit on this panel and learn from the panelists as well.
All right, thank you guys. Thanks for being here as well. So the agenda for today will be a 40 minutes panel discussion and then a 5 minutes Q&A at the end. So attendees, you can start putting in your question in the Q&A section of the Zoom control panel below, and then you can also direct it to who you want it to be answered by. So without further ado, let's get to the first discussion topic. So as everyone here has experienced firsthand, company culture is a term that gets used a lot. You see the term used in job description and also in interviews to pull in talents. There are also companies like Facebook, Amazon, or Google that provide like foosball tables, beer on tap, and even catered meals. So are these offerings simply novelties, or are they something more? So here's the first question for the Fireside chat. Is company culture, and a good one at that, a contributor to success or just a gimmick? So we can start with Wantedly. Andrew, what do you feel?
Hey, thanks for the question. Straight into it, good culture is 100% a contributor to success. One outcome is attractive employer branding. This attracts not just quantity, but quality talents. And another would be a strong EVP, employee value proposition, which helps you motivate your teams, right? After they join, you want to keep them motivated and inspired. So at the end of it all, and I need to say that this is a journey, not a destination, yeah. Your passionate employees will become your champions. Your champions will help you bring in more business and delight your customers. That is how good culture can be a contributor to success. But we spoke a little bit about the gimmicks. Culture is definitely more than gimmicks. Yes, there are some gimmicks, but maybe none of them can stand the test of time. Take, for instance, foosball tables, workplace meals being catered. Today, the workplace guidelines is no gathering in the office, right? Or we are not even going to office. So those really don't stand the test of time. Not always. But what is culture? Culture equals people. Culture can change. It should be a work in progress. You can never stagnate. And culture sometimes, we face this question a lot. Culture sometimes may be intangible, right? But if I were to break it down more, quantify it a little bit for our audience today, I would suggest these are layers to look at. Your work environment, and that can be physical or virtual, work arrangements, communications, so on and so forth. Your team, because we are going to spend 70 to 80% of our waking hours with these folks, right? Hopefully not 100%, but 70 to 80%. So team forms a big part of your culture. And finally, your values. And these values stem from the vision, the founder's vision at the start, and all the way into the execution. We call this the why, the what, and the how. So I think culture is extremely, extremely important to a business, its growth and its success.
Nice, I see. So what about Aspire, Joel? What do you feel about this?
Yeah, wow, that's amazing framework, man, Andrew. I definitely never thought about it broken down like that. For me, you know, culture is a lot more maybe sharing from a first-hand experience, maybe, right? I think that you know, we recently have been as a company thinking a lot more about it, right? And we were discussing at one of the leadership meetings, you know, is it enough to just sort of like set out our values and say like, hey, this is what we believe in? How do we make it actionable, right? I think a lot of things, you know, when you're actually running, you know, ops day to day, right? You're really wondering, hey, what can I do to really action it, right? And that kind of led me to the thinking that actually culture is a shared experience, right? Ultimately, I think that's what it is, right? It's a bit like a brand in that sense. It's experience, and it's what each individual sort of holds or thinks about it, right? It's a different experience for everyone, and it's hard to capture in words by itself, with the exception of saying, you know, it's an experience. And I think, you know, with regards to the question, you know, is it a contributor to success, or is it a gimmick? I agree with Andrew, right? I mean, there are lots of gimmicks out there. I think gimmicks are maybe, you know, I would say it's hard to compete if you don't have some gimmicks in you know, the sort of competitive landscape that we see, you know, the talent wars today, right? So yeah, I think it's fair to say maybe it's a bit more hygiene a factor, maybe 10%, right? But I think ultimately the 90%, which is, you know, how people interact with each other day to day, how people talk to each other, what do you encourage in your organization, what are the values that you actually call out and appreciate people for? I think that's the 90%, which is the shared experience.
I see. Thank you. Lastly, Jesslyn.
Okay, well, I think, you know what, Andrew and Joel, you said it all. I don't need to be here. Okay, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I completely agree with them. On a personal level, I just don't think that these offerings are gimmicks as well. I think maybe if you see it from another point of view, it's, you know, part of the compensation package in a way, yeah, that the company offers, right? So if there's anything I've learned from being in, you know, the HR industry for a while now, I think it's that every employee values different types of compensation differently. So for those who value perks like foosball tables, beers on tap, right, catered meals, they may actually outweigh these perks to say, you know, for example, the hygiene factor of getting like a higher base salary. And that's perfectly okay. Because ultimately, compensation is still quite an individual thing. And so, yeah, you know, it definitely forms part of like company culture.
Yeah, I see. Those are really interesting points. And as an employee, I would say I agree also. And I also like the point about how the most passionate employee would be your champions, the point from Andrew. And it really helps when you have a good and positive company culture. So thank you so much for sharing. This brings us to our next point. The points on the aspect of having a good company culture. So reports have shown that companies with good culture actually have better performing financials and performances. So does it hold true for Talenox? You guys have been around for much longer. Does having a good company culture enable you and your team to perform even better?
Okay, so, well, yes, you're right. Then in some ways, I think a good company culture does lead to increased job satisfaction and performance. Simply because employees who are more likely to enjoy their work, right? They feel like their values are aligned with, you know, the people they work with, the company that they work for. So we're all human beings after all, and humans just naturally have a tendency to relate better to those who share, you know, similar viewpoints.
I see. What about you, Andrew? Does having a good company culture enable you and your team to perform better?
We try. it's definitely towards a yes, right? But the slight hesitation is we got to put things into perspective. We are a continued work in progress, right? I mentioned culture is never a destination. So with this continued work in progress, I don't think it would be right for any company to say that they have the best culture and that suggests, you know, they are satisfied with where they are at and may not seek further improvement. So in answering this question, let me go back to our mission at Wantedly. That is to create a world where work drives passion. Now, a world where work drives passion is one where talents and companies discover and choose each other based on shared purpose, based on shared values that Jesslyn highlighted, right? So working towards this increases motivation and it brings them more satisfaction at work. So you can see where I'm going towards. I'm echoing what Jesslyn said. There's definitely a correlation. You know, these motivated and satisfied workforce, they go on to produce better results and also with more social impact than they would have working at a job that they dislike because they feel like they're actually making a contribution. Of course, employers, managers, business owners, we are mindful, each individual and also each company's purpose may be different. Now, circling back to our team, right, and our company, at Wantedly, part of our working style is guided by the pillars of autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And this enables, right, this guidance enables our tribes and our squads. So tribe is like departments, squads are like teams. It allows us to focus, that's the autonomy. It allows us to produce result, that's the mastery. And from these results, realize our growth, that's the purpose. Closer to the ground, my manager, my colleague in Singapore office, he often describes to candidates that we interview, right? He describes Wantedly as a family here in Singapore. And this suggests how we support each other, how we nurture each other, not just in good times, but also in bad times, which we very recently experienced with the pandemic. And I think that has been the key to us being resilient and still performing throughout the pandemic.
I see. So I think we all can agree that a positive company culture is essential for fostering like a sense of pride and ownership amongst the employees. So when people take pride, they have the motivation, which is the key, which is what we're all saying. So we move on to the next segment, which is probably what most people listening in on wants to find out. So starting with Aspire, how do you build a company culture? Could you share any experiences or some tips maybe?
Wow, this is like $1 million question.
Yeah.
Well, I think fundamentally we started. I think when we first started, we actually already had a values document, right? That we documented amongst the founders. It was just something that we felt was important to us at the early stage, and that document has 9 values. We then sort of expound on it to provide different examples of how that actually translates to action, right? So it helps to guide people within the organization. But I would say, admittedly, along the way, as you go along your BAU, you don't tend to really think about it too much, right? To be honest, and business gets in the way. And it's something that now today we've really kind of come back to and really tried to pay a lot of attention to, not by anything, to be honest. I wouldn't even give the credit to us. It's by necessity, right? Because I think as you scale, you realize you cannot simply achieve all those things by yourself, and you've got to work with people and great people. And I think the key to attracting great people is to build a great culture, and you do that by, at least internally, we feel that you do that by taking a stand, right? So that's where the values document comes back in. We can refer to it. We try to, like I shared earlier, we try to put this into day-to-day experience right? So, we do encourage managers within the organization to, call out good behaviors when they occur, right? During your daily stand-up, it's just, devoting 1 or 2 minutes to sort of saying like, hey, Andrew, I saw you did do this, like that was great, right? And the rest of the team kind of understands that, and you're encouraging that positive kind of, activity within your team, right? So that's one of the ways we do it. I guess we have a lot of other tidbits along the way, right? Actually, this Friday, we're giving the company off because we wanted to celebrate World Mental Health Day. So there are little tidbits like that our people team actually does, right? They come up with it, and then we try to do that. So yeah, I think if I were to sum it up, take a stand on values, practice it within the organization, find pockets of opportunities where you can practice that. Yeah.
I see. What about Talenox? Any advice on building company culture?
Yeah, okay. So I think similar to Joel, right? He was saying that actually there's some kind of value statement or like values brand book or something like that. And usually I personally believe that culture starts from the top and it perpetuates downwards. So I guess your question is, the process of building a company culture from scratch. I'm not sure like how many people in the audience might get that opportunity to be, the person that is actually creating the company culture from scratch. But if you do get that opportunity, it usually starts from, working with the founders, putting together that committee to ask about like what's important to them, because this usually helps to shape like the company's values. And then from there you have the vision and the mission, and then the brand book or the company playbook. But you know what, like even after you start crafting this booklet, or these statements, like Joel said, it's extremely important that like the people in the company ensure that they are exemplifying or displaying the company's values at work. And sometimes I think, in the midst of like firefighting and executing every day, it's very easy to kind of just forget about the value sometimes. So I think in this sense, it is important that maybe the managers or the leaders of the various departments kind of take a step back to remember that, okay, these are the company's values, let me display it, and then try to see if I can set a good example for those who, like report to me.
So usually top down lah.
Yes.
Yes, interesting. So for Wantedly, are there factors or things we need to look out for when it comes to creating a culture for employees?
Yeah, Aspire's nine values, that list, I'm so curious to look at it. I love the tidbit you shared. And Jesslyn, what you mentioned, I think that's a lot of my points here as well. The leader needs to inspire with his or her vision, right? And inject his or her values into the culture. One thing to note with this approach, I think, quote unquote, top down, not everyone will be on board. But hey, you're not here to build a culture to appease everyone. You're here to build a culture to provide for those that are aligned with your mission. And talking about that, those who are aligned, you need to find champions for your cause. Back to the beginning of this session, champions would be your advocates and your ambassadors. They are so important for your business as an owner, as a HR, or as a founder. Of course, you will shout out about how good your culture is, right? It doesn't make sense if you don't shout out about that. But there is more weight when someone else on the team validates it. So you need this loyal crew walking the talk with you. And I think this is especially important and challenging nonetheless for smaller outfits. A large organization with tens of thousands of employees, with a culture book and everything, they just need 10% of their workforce to be champions, and they have thousands of voices already. But if 10% of a small startup team of say 10 people, if only 10% become champions of this young startup for the company, that means you only have one champion. So I think that's key, the origin, laying it out, and then the execution. making it flow throughout the company. So yeah, I think these are very important things to look up to.
I see. Thank you. So I think we gathered that so far the company culture is essentially like a tightly woven collection of ideals that is usually shaped from top down. And like these are the people that should shape their actions through their words, shape their words through their actions. So bearing with that in mind, we are at the final part of this chat. After building a culture, how would you guys maintain it? Let's begin with Joel.
Yeah, so this is, I guess here, maybe, I can just share a couple of examples, right? Because I think culture is, it's not a, you can implement and done kind of thing, right? You got to keep living it, you got to keep doing it, and you got to keep finding those opportunities. So one of the things that we do is that one of the values actually is transparency, right? And we really believe in transparency, it's part of owning whatever's whatever you're responsible for. It's also about being open to and also providing feedback, right, where necessary, and to really sort of how would I say, as we really doubled down on this value, right? What we did is we actually put the entire company's OKRs on one Google Sheet. So everyone from the CEO to the intern, right? You can see exactly what they're working on, and at least within our company, we run on quarterly OKRs, right? And that's the backbone, and we chose to be transparent about that backbone, right? So that's one way we really try to keep that recurring. I think another thing that I really liked that we implemented as well was this is maybe a bit more on an individual level, right? Individual team member level, but it's also to recognize the fact that the journey is not easy, right? No matter what it is, right? But if you're in a startup, you know that a startup is a roller coaster, right? And whether you're a CEO or you're an employee, it's not easy. And so one of the things that we do, kind of practice mindfulness and to really just recognize the fact that it's not easy is that we implement this weekly email update, right? Where we encourage everyone in the company to share their highlights and lowlights. And I think just simply by doing that, we achieve a couple of things. One, you really humanize and recognize the fact that, hey, we're all on this journey together. There are going to be highs, there are going to be lows, and it's okay, right? And the other one is also that, it then kind of, you by enforcing that routine, you make everyone a bit more mindful, you help them prioritize, we help them kind of look to that backbone that we created earlier on, right? Yeah, so these are some of the examples, a bit more tactical. I don't have a high level framework, but yeah.
I see. What about you, Andrew from Wantedly?
I'll reference something we mentioned, right, about documenting the culture and the values. At Wantedly, we have something called the Culture Book, and it tells of our founder, Akiko Naka. She's our founder and CEO. It tells of her vision, and it's basically our origin story, right? Wantedly day one. So I think this is presented to new employees. We update the version, the copy edition, every now and then, and it's given to members. So this is something that's quite tangible that we do. And we also have culture lunches hosted by Akiko, every few weeks or few months with new members and long-time members as well. As part of new members is onboarding, long-time members is part of a refresher. So why I'm sharing this is because having a good culture is not sufficient. It should be very deliberately and very intentionally communicated, from the recruitment process to onboarding to updating that culture code, and then to iteration if needed. A simple way of understanding this is that if you are the best employer in the universe, but no one knows it, they're not going to be attracted to your organization. They won't have the chance to contribute to growing your business.
I see. Finally, Jesslyn, any advice on maintaining culture in Talenox?
Okay. So I think for me also, maybe let me just maybe keep it to like three points. So I think the first point I would have is more of a HR thing. I think again coming from HR startup. I think one thing that we've always really focused on in terms of maintaining culture, it's difficult, but we just try to be very careful when we hire someone new. Yeah, because I think it is, I mean, it's like what Andrew said, right? It starts from recruitment. And sometimes it's not the easiest to detect whether that the new hire is going to be someone that will continue sticking with your culture also. Or really, really, truly exemplifies or identifies with your culture. But I guess on a very management style level or HR level, that's kind of like the first step to go about doing it to maintain that culture. I think the second thing is like what Joel said, it really does get difficult, especially in startups. So I think what we also try to do is, try to, on the opposite end, keep things fun and light. Try to remind everyone that there's always good that's happening. So because our team is virtual, right? We're really a remote first company. So we do have teammates in like other countries. So what we try to do is like virtual game nights. We have like Friday night drinking nights. Okay, I'm not promoting anything that vices here, but yeah, we do have those things. We have like a group chat even for like gaming stuff or like the group chat is really not to share anything about work, but it's to share interesting things outside of work. Yeah. So and I think last but not least, maybe the biggest thing that our team really looks forward to every year, except for the COVID season. I'm sorry to the new team members who didn't manage to do it, but yeah, we actually do like annual overseas team retreats. Yeah, so that we can bring people together from the various countries that they're working in, and also I think it helps to like create the opportunity for everyone to get to know each other on a personal basis. So this brings me to like my third and last point, which is to create opportunities to get to know each other personally. So I know that maybe some people would disagree with me on this, but I think as much as we say, like keep our work and personal life separate, I find that, in terms of like a small team at least, it helps to get to know someone that we work with on a personal level to some extent. Because I think this helps us to like open our minds to, giving them the benefit of doubt when conflicts arise or when we find that we start to assume certain changes in their behavior through certain things. So yeah, it's very easy to say, right? Hey, I think this person no longer fits into our company culture. But sometimes it's also about taking that step back and actually I think it's more helpful when you try to think of it this way as like, okay, I know that this person is like that because I've interacted with them on a more personal level. So maybe because I know that they're like that, perhaps they're going through something, in life. I don't know. So because of that, maybe let's help them get their groove back. Maybe it's just a phase they're going through, helps to have a little chat. Yeah. So that is my three main points. Be very careful when you hire someone new. Keep things fun and light. And the last one, which is maybe try to get to know each other personally and create opportunities for that.
Yeah, sometimes it's as simple as like meeting them for a meal or coffee, or like implementing a clear communication channel so that everybody gets good feedback and check on each other. So thank you all for the questions, for the answering the questions. So we'll go ahead to take some time from the audience to answer their questions. It looks like we have a few questions, and this one's for Andrew. So Natasha asked, okay, so she really likes the concept of the employee value proposition. What are the three main components which an EVP needs to have?
Sorry,
I'm for you, Andrew.
Yeah,
I think, Andrew.
referring to the chat.
Oh, you're referring to the chat. Yeah.
I think there's two questions actually.
Yeah,
Natasha,
from her.
thank you for the question. Right, I think everyone has a different approach, and if you're asking on behalf of a large organization versus a small one, that's different also. But I think first and foremost, I want to highlight something that's come to the forefront in this current climate, and that is safety, trust, health, physical or mental. I think that's extremely important. I think we used to take it for granted. We cannot anymore, whether you're an employer or an employee. So that's something to note. The others, I would say, work environment plays a big part of it. It has shifted, but work environment encompasses quite a number of things, right? Like how you communicate and how that translates into you, into your deliverables, into your reporting. That is also work environment. And then in terms of sort of the more tangibles, maybe it's a bit of, falls under the category of the 10% gimmicks, but necessary gimmicks is what do you get? What benefits and amenities do you get at your work environment? And if it's not a physical, how do you translate that into virtual? Last but not least, I would say this one is something that I feel very strongly for. I think it's easy to shout about, it's hard to build, but pardon my language, a kick-ass team. I think everyone wants to work with people they can learn from, with people they can grow together with people they can fight together with, right? Go to the trenches with. So I think if you can build that and you can communicate that is something that's in terms of attracting talents, going to be very appealing. In terms of keeping talents, they're going to be super motivated because everyone is a comrade to each other. Yeah.
I see. Natasha also like to ask how you can keep your employees constantly engaged so that they are happy and productive. Aside from employees' benefits and overseas trips, what can we do?
I would bring in tidbits from Aspire about the regular check-ins, the sharing of wins and lows. That's something that we practice at Wantali as well. In fact, we are building a product around this, employee engagement. The product yet to be launched in Singapore. It's already launched in Japan. It's called Pulse. And as the name suggests, you are taking the pulse of your members, of your teammates. And it's pretty holistic. First of all, sort of manager to member, you will have your weekly check-ins, your monthly check-ins. You will be able to see, how anyone is doing with a quick survey. It shouldn't be tedious, right? If it's a report structure, a report framework, people are just going to take the shortcut. So it shouldn't be tedious. It should be like a multiple choice or like a button to display how you're feeling. And there will be a trend. That's right, a trend analysis for this also. Like, all right, in the last 2 quarters, he was really down in the previous month. So you can actually observe, how he or she is doing in their own personal capacity. So this pulse check-in is extremely important. And one more quick thing to, I don't want to hog the time, is celebrating the wins, sharing the lows as well. What we have in our Singapore team is a weekly kudos. Basically we very intentionally give thanks to anyone that has helped us. And the way we have set it up is there's nothing that's too trivial, right? If you as my teammate help me stand in for a presentation because I have to go to the doctors, that is something that's worth celebrating. If you and me tag team to close a deal, that's something that should be celebrated. And if you bought a coffee for me, my favorite bubble tea. I think that's also something that should be celebrated. So we make sure that that's very consistently done.
Thank you. I see. So we have one for Jesslyn as well. Natasha says thanks. So Jesslyn, from Jay, from a HR perspective, what are your thoughts on using a learning and development solution to sustain a good company culture?
Okay. Thanks, Jay. That's actually a really good question. Okay, not that I'm being biased here, but at Talenox, one of our 5 values is actually self-learning. So in that sense, what we do at Talenox is that every year we actually give our teammates all like a learning budget. So this can be used, it's a few $100s. This can be used to anything where it helps in your role or outside of your role, as long as it's something that helps with your learning in that sense. But let's say overall from, an HR perspective in general, I think that moving forward, especially like in the digital age and, with COVID happening, we saw that there were a lot of people losing their jobs, right? So as much as I think it's important for employees to pick up skills and learn things on their own, sometimes they just don't have the time, or maybe they don't have the resources. And I think it's actually good. I actually foresee many companies, in the near future, even now, slowly adopting like learning solutions and learning and actually creating learning budgets for their team. Yeah, so I really hope to see that happening more in the future. Yeah, and it's
Thanks,
something
Jess.
that HR should do.
Thanks, Jess.
Okay, no problem.
So we have one more. We will take one more from Jay for Joel. As a startup, how do you decide what kind of culture fits your company best?
Oh wow, it's a hard one. I think initially when you start, it's true. I think what Jesslyn and Andrew mentioned, it's quite top down in that sense, right? Because if you're the founders and it's your company, you are going to set the tone from the start. But I think maybe this question is maybe a bit more as you evolve, what does that become, right? And I think maybe there are 2 factors. I think the founder factor is going to remain there, right? Whoever's leading the organization, the tone that they set, it's going to remain there. I think the other one would obviously be the large and growing pool of teammates that you work with on a day in, day out basis. And, there are a lot of ways to kind of get that pulse, right? Like what Andrew was saying, we do employee surveys. We get a sense of how employees are feeling, any feedback or any improvements that they would like to see in the company. I think that collectively, steers your culture and what you decide to roll out. And I think the last one is maybe a bit more industry specific in that sense, right? I think depending on the space that you operate in, and maybe this best ties back to a company's mission, right? And what you're trying to achieve and in the space that you operate in. I think that naturally shapes a little bit of how you perceive the world as it is, right? And what you want to make, what mark you want to make on it, right? And it's really your commentary, right? As a business, you're making a commentary in that industry. And you basically, I think you need a tribe of people to come in and build that with you. And that's your message.
I see. Jay says thanks, Jess and Joel. So thank you, everyone. That was a nice discussion. We've come to the end of the session. I won't hold you guys up any longer. We really appreciate for you guys to be here. Thank you, the speakers, for sharing with us your insights today. Feel free to reach out to Andrew or Joel or Jess on their LinkedIn or their website. Sorry if we don't have time to answer everyone's question, but I think Jess is replying to you guys in the chat group as well. I hope you guys caught that. So yeah, we'll see you on the next session on how and why customer success is different from customer support at 4 p.m. Kenneth, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Ben. And thank you so much to our panelists, Jesslyn, Andrew, and Joel, for sharing, right, on why a positive company culture matters, right? So hopefully you guys got some interesting insights and interesting opinions, and for the people who asked the questions, hopefully the answers are actually sufficient, right? And it quells your curiosity, right? So as Ben mentioned, up next we have the final fireside chat of the day, number 6, right, on how customer success is different from customer support. So it starts at 4 p.m. So we have a bit of a 15 minutes grace period. So think of it as intermission. I'll be playing some nice fancy hotel lounge music. So feel free to just sit back and enjoy while waiting. Again, as these 15 minutes go, grab a cup of coffee, tea, maybe take a break, right? I promise that I'm not going to take more coffee. So, I'm going to sit right here. Right. So thank you so much to the panelists and Ben for moderating the session. So you guys can now take your leave.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Right.
Thank you,
And
Thank you
take care.
all.
Right. See you all really, really soon.
See y'all.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hold on, let me just push Andrew and Jess to the attendees while I start to share the really nice music with everybody. Please don't judge my taste. All right, just give me a little while. So everybody, as mentioned, please, just sit back and relax, and we will begin the next session shortly.